I've been telling you a couple of stories, and in each case, we like to make sense of our world. We like to make sense so we can properly participate. And in that sense, explanations provide us with a sense of tranquility. For example, were I to come and knock on your door right now, and then you were to open it and see me there, you'd expect me to give you a method by which I could have arrived there, some kind of way that could have happened, not by magic. Same kind of questions when we talked about why is the sky blue or where do I come from? And it's interesting how that question, where do I come from, comes up for some children and not for others. Others just take it for granted until they find out, sort of. And if you do accept an explanation, such as where you came from, how long that particular explanation remains appropriate and comfortable for you. For example, the Easter Bunny, or the Father Christmas, or Santa Claus, or any of those. Some people like to keep those explanations without even wanting to question it because it's so much nicer the way they have it. But really, what is an explanation? What is the anatomy or the structure of an explanation such that we know it is an explanation? And whatever I answer to you should be adequate for a scientific explanation or technical explanation, as well as for the simple questions that children ask. So, what is an explanation? An explanation entails two operations, always two operations. The first is the proposition of a generative mechanism, a mechanism that, if it were allowed to operate, would give rise to the phenomenon to be explained. So that this mechanism, this process, when it takes place, the result is that thing you want to explain. If I'm coming to your door, I would say, I got here because I decided to jump on a plane, and then I rented a car, and I found your address, I had it in file, and for some reason or other, I really wanted to surprise you. Okay, so that's a method. But then the other thing that is the acceptance by the observer or the listener of the proposed generating mechanism as doing what it claims to do. If I had told you, coming to the door, oh, I just stepped through the science portal that allows me to teleport myself here, you may not accept it. There has to be something that you put on as the observer. And so, an explanation accepted by the listener according to any criterion of validation the listener puts on. And the interesting thing is, I don't know what it is you have accepted when I have offered you an explanation and say, yeah. I don't know what criterion you've used because that criterion can be entirely arbitrary. It may be something entirely different than what I thought it was or assumed it was. And you may think about it, you may have it aware, or you may be doing it quite intuitively. Let's look at an example. You are aware of the harvest moon, the so-called moon that happens at fall, but also other times of the year when the full moon seems so huge, so beautiful, so large on the horizon. Is it really bigger? How did it really get there? Consider this diagram. It's a little easier to explain it. When we're looking at the moon on the horizon, it's kind of in relation to some objects that we know that we can place it must be behind that object. And yet, when it's up in the sky, it doesn't have that set of references. And I was looking at the sky just the other day and looking at the bank of clouds that was covering it from the mountains on the North Shore here to overhead. And it looked kind of flat, and they were sort of halfway up the mountain. So the clouds aren't very far up, and this moon is obviously just behind those clouds. Or put it differently, if we look at the distance that we think the moon is from us, it's a lot shorter than the distance it must be away from us when it's behind things we know are far off in the distance. We don't live much in the vertical horizon, and the horizontal horizon means a lot to us. Just the same, I have a friend who said, that may be so, but I prefer the mystery. In other words, she has put on a different criterion than what many of us would want to accept, same as the child who knows very well that maybe the Santa Claus maybe is not who they thought, but somebody else, they may prefer to keep that belief for entirely different reasons. And the same as you may choose to be closer to your mother as the being having grown in her belly rather than being brought by a stork or being found under a cabbage patch. So that's all for now.